I mean, it's amazing that it lasted as long as it did.
Concern about fallout grounded the atomic rocket. If the trend continued, Plowshare could be next.
People started worrying about radioactivity. Moving mountains didn't seem to appeal to too many people.
If Plowshare was going to pursue its dream of planetary engineering, it would have to cut down on radiation. Project leader Edward Teller was counting on a new generation of cleaner explosives. This 1968 model promised 99% less radiation. 5 of them were detonated in a row for this test in Nevada. And the result was a trench perfect for Panama, with radiation levels reportedly down. To counter the fallout fear, Plowshare promised to keep track of it with a new field of atmospheric modelling. The end result was a footprint of the fallout. Around it, Plowshare would create a safety zone until the radiation cooled. Despite the new technology, criticism of Teller and Plowshare was growing. But the Soviet authorities were just as intrigued as the Americans. In the early 1970s, they were invited to tour the craters in Nevada and talk about nuclear excavation. When they came, they brought a film about their own canal project in the taiga forests of central Russia. Nuclear excavation would divert a river in Siberia and send it south to help refill the Caspian Sea. And they would do it with low radiation explosives. But the result of the blast was a list of new problems. The cloud of steam drove the fallout high into the atmosphere. Radiation infected Europe and North America. And the soft pulverized rock collapsed back into the crater, leaving a shallow, muddy lake. Similar problems could turn up in Panama. In the face of mounting problems, both countries put their canal projects on hold. The dream of planetary engineering was collapsing, and the rise of the environmentalist was just around the corner.
On History Night, we'll start proceedings with the lesser-known facts about Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. That's followed by the alternative rock and roll years, exploring worldwide trends in fashion throughout the 60s, 70s and 80s. Then on Reporters at War, news journalists discuss the increasing importance of media coverage direct from battle zones. That's History Night here on Discovery.
Ever wonder how we manage to keep pushing the limits? Science Night, next Tuesday on Discovery.
Pioneers of Flight is sponsored by Airbus, celebrating 100 years of flight.
Min far, Jakob Ellehammer, blev anerkendt i Danmark som den første europæer, der kom op og flyve. Hvis han kunne erstatte snorens træk i dragen med en propel, så var det muligt at lave en flyvemaskine. Det skete i 1906. Den 12. september. Højden var ikke mere end 40 centimeter cirka. Flyvningen, jeg tror, den varede en 20 sekunder. Det var det hele.
Pioneers of Flight was sponsored by Airbus, creating the next 100 years of flight.
By the early 1970s, With the atmospheric nuclear test ban now in place, the anti-nuclear lobby was growing in strength. Now it was environmentalist Barry Commoner's turn to be on the cover of Time magazine.
Remember the day. Today, the solar age was born. And the nuclear age died on that day.
We just stopped research and explosions altogether because, as you know, the situation in Russia was extremely complicated. The Greens became extremely active in politics. It was also the time when there were active negotiations on nuclear disarmament. And there was really no funding. That is why we stopped.
Much has changed in the past 40 years. The Cold War has ended. The Soviet Union has dissolved. 30 years after the first Soviet-American exchange, Milo Nordijk and Vadim Simonenko are returning to the Nevada test site. Today, the Plowshare program and its Soviet counterpart are distant memories. But could they ever be revived?
We only worked a few years on the program. It was just the beginning. All that we did in those decades will belong to the future of mankind. Now that it has been invented, it may find all kinds of uses in the future, in next millennium. Like the invention of the wheel, it just keeps rolling along in all kinds of ways.
925 nuclear explosions took place here, most of them for the military. Today, the site is quiet.
Well, here we are.
The 1996 Test Ban Treaty put an end to all nuclear tests by the Russians and